100% right, every time. The McClaskey Excellence Institute brings you The Operations Experts, a podcast with hosts David McClaskey and Billy Schaefer. Delight your customers, reduce errors, and increase repeat business. Take your operations from ordinary to extraordinary. Welcome to the Operations Experts Podcast, where we have the pleasure of talking with business leaders who have made great strides in both operations and leadership. Today, we get to talk to Joe Ignace of Velocity 360. He's the founder and CEO. Welcome, Joe.
Welcome to the show, Joe.
Thanks so much for having me, guys. So nice to be on.
Hey, we're so glad to have you. Thank you for taking the time to talk with us. And can you tell us a little about your business, what you do, who your customers are, or your growth plans?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm the founder CEO of Velocity 360. We're a CRM and lead generation solution for sales and recruiting and operations. And yeah, our whole mission and why we exist is to inspire people to do what inspires them so they can add value to the people around them and together make the world a better place. And how we live that out is through the entrepreneur. You who are listening to this, who are trying to scale something, who are hiring people, who are making your community better. You're probably giving to your local charities, your churches, your communities, schools, things like that. And so, our goal as a company and who we target, we'll work with high ticket sales organizations. We'll work with software companies. We'll work with blue collar companies, a little bit all over the board. Our solutions can help a lot of different people in the sales ops, recruiting ops, operations sides of things. We've released Velocity 60 about 12 months ago. We have about 70 companies and over 400 or 500 users just in that time. And it all started from a consulting company that I started about 3 years ago, Knowledge Gap, which we've now rebranded to Velocity 360. And we packaged what we were doing, working with about 150 companies at that time into the software solution so we could help more people at a more affordable price and live out our mission more.
Oh, that's fantastic. It's great to help companies achieve their mission better. And can you give an example of how, as you've helped companies achieve their mission, they've also been able to help their communities and as well as their business?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, there's a lot of ways people help their local communities. And as we grow, we'll continue to have more and more stories. We have even someone we've hired where, they have an awesome nonprofit. We just gift them some software. I've got a marriage ministry that my father-in-law runs. We gift them some software and different things like that. So as we grow, we'll help some nonprofits. But yeah, so we have a company, Secure Storage Sheds. They've got like 13 locations. We help their entire sales ops process and, they get these leads and there's so much stuff you've got to do that never gets done. If you're not careful, don't have the software, don't know how long everything takes. And, they hire just a lot of incredible people. And, we end up working with a lot of Christian companies, which is great. And, those people have a pretty high demographic of giving to nonprofits. So, we'll soon hopefully be working with some Chamber of Commerces and things like that. So we're working on those things. I can't speak to what every single individual does, but the way that we market when we're sitting down with someone looking at using Velocity 360, we have this slide in our slide deck that says that we focus on helping others' businesses. When we're talking to an owner, I always tell them we don't work with cigarette companies because it just kills people. No offense to anyone smoking cigarettes, just what happens. So I just don't want to be a part of it. I want to be furthering the entrepreneur who wants to have a high quality success rate for their customers and have a high quality success rate for their employees. And even in just those two things, regardless of what their charitable donations are, they're making the world a better place by having a great workplace, because part of the reason people scale and grow is all the people that they lead and they work with. Helping them have great lives is what it's about, in my opinion. Helping their customers have great lives is what it's about.
Love that. I love the stories about how you started. And the story that I always want to hear is, every business was born at some point, but what was that inspiration? Why? Why did you choose to start this great company? What was that inspiration, that point of that moment? What happened?
Yeah. So back in college, I went to the University of Tennessee, a big Vols fan. And I studied accounting and finance, and I did that because my pastor's like, that's a good thing to learn. If you know the numbers, you can kind of do whatever you want. That pastor's now like an Amazon director of like multi-locations. He's like a really awesome guy. Anyway, so I was going through college. My whole thing was I just wanted to maximize the experience, and I got approached to do a door-to-door sales job. Everyone's dream, I know. And so I signed up. And it's 80 hours a week, straight commission. You get no guarantees. In fact, you have to pay your way out. You got to pay for your training. and all of that. And so it sounds like, again, what everyone was hoping for their summer internship as a freshman. Anyway, I go out and I do that. And I ended up being number 24 in the world as an 18, 19-year-old in sales out of rookies. Thank you. It was really good. And I made more money than I'd made, in all of my high school jobs combined at the time. In 2016, $11,000 was a lot. As a summer intern. And so I came back and I did that for 3 more summers while I was in college. And then I did 4 years full time. I ended up being a top 0.1% producer, and I recruited 43 people to do the same thing. And so, yeah, I'd have a summer during COVID 2020 where things were like shut down or whatever. And it was like, oh man, everything's going to go terrible. And we went and sold $1 million of educational books and Bible resources in 12 weeks, college team in Virginia. In the Appalachia area. So, there could be millions of reasons why that wouldn't work, but it did. And then anyway, I go on to run a $1.5 million group and as one of the youngest sales managers of all time. Going through that process of recruiting and seeing people, I probably ran 1,000 workshops that led to about 1,500 interviews or something in my career. And then I trained probably hundreds to maybe 1,000 students. And the belief level and what is achievable in life is quite low, unfortunately. People would, the company is like door-to-door sales, and I'm sure anyone listening to this is like, wow, that's crazy hard and or whatever. And a lot of people immediately disqualifies themselves from being able to do well at it. And that is the reason I wanted to start this type of a company, because people disqualify themselves all the time. But truly, if you can believe in yourself and build a process that's repeatable, that if you just follow this process, you do well. That's what it was like in the door-to-door sales job. If you just had a certain number of demos, 30 demos a day, worked a certain number of hours, like 75 hours a week, and you talked to enough people, that company was 183 years old. There were people who bought this stuff. There was a demand for it. People care about their kids' education and they care about their faith learning. So knock enough doors, talk to enough people, you will make sales. You'll make 2 sales out of every 30 people you talk to that are qualified families. And if you just do that, we'd have these European students who did not speak English well, and they would go sell more than Americans every year because of their belief and their willingness to put in the effort in a process. And that's sales operations, right? Like follow the sales ops, follow these procedures, and you will do fine. And then, there's a varying degree of personality and all these things, but personality did not determine who sold the most. I saw introverted people sell more than naturally talented extroverts. It's because it's an operations thing. It's just following a system, right? And that's what a sales system is supposed to be. And that's what an ops system is. And that's what a recruiting system, a training system, a learning management system. It's all supposed to be simple that you follow. And that company had the best sales training systems, you never have sold anything in your life, being able to knock on doors and sell something, collect payment in 20 minutes or less, like $300, $400, $500 package. They're the best in the world at it. It's the best thing for college students. So anyway, seeing that transformative belief in people is what I love. And I love doing that with their businesses because they think there's these barriers to scale, to growth. And there's these companies out there like HubSpot, Pipedrive, and they charge just so much. Like Salesforce charges $330 a month per user on average. And so you have a 10-user company trying to streamline and you're maybe $1 million revenue or something. We're talking 12% of your revenue, right? Is your CRM software, not even set up for you, none of that. And so we're able to help all of those companies at a much lower price point actually implement and scale and hire more people and make the world a better place, right? And that gets me excited. I love seeing that transformation of that entrepreneur to believe in themselves and believe they can actually do it versus another small business not making it. And they go back to doing the normal thing that they didn't want to do anyway, right? So anyway.
I love that. I love I love how you're people minded first. People are the most important thing. And I love your idea about you're right. A great system is always going to win. Honestly, a bad system is going to beat talent 90% of the time because systems they're consistent in how you operate. I love what you're doing is where you're actually getting people to believe in themselves. And every single entrepreneur, I know David, myself, you, all of us have gone through this moment to where we question, like, are we doing the right thing? But then there's always that magical moment that says yes, whether it be the star in the night sky, somebody says something that's right, that makes you click. What was that moment that said, you're on the right path, you're doing the right thing? just that backed you up and really gave you that belief that I'm doing the right thing right now?
Yeah, no, great question. When I started doing the consulting stuff a few years ago, it's spaghetti against the wall as you're figuring out what you're good at, what you like. And, I actually used to help people with some marketing stuff, and I did some sales stuff. I did some recruiting things, and I just landed on the fact that their sales systems or recruiting systems were just atrocious. And people would say, "Hey, Joe, I need leads." And I would look at them and be like, "Well, what's your process like?" And they would be like, "Well, there isn't one." And I'm just like, "You don't need more leads. You just need to close the ones you have." And that's what led to our sales CRM solution, which is all of the pieces of the puzzle that help you close leads you already have. Close people in your database who you haven't talked to in 12 years because you have no sales system that's following up with people who have already spent money with you, who would probably spend again if you had the right solution for them, and all of the leads that never get followed up with because you're too busy. And so I had clients, my first 6 months of that consulting business, and I was doing that type of thing with him, an operations, sales ops type thing, just having trouble collecting money, having trouble scheduling jobs, having trouble on visibility. And this is before the software ever existed. And it was a landscaping company. And after working with them for 3 months, they doubled their sales in 6 months. They found someone was stealing money from them. They implemented a new position. They implemented new procedures to prevent that. They had better risk management, and they collected their payments on time. Because they had something like $60,000 or $70,000 outstanding every month because they were doing commercial, personal, and the owner was scared to ask for money, didn't want to lose sales. And so we needed a system that would run regardless how he felt, regardless of who he hired, that would collect the money because the business would go out of business, right? And setting those systems, the beauty of systems is that it doesn't matter about the human weakness because we all have them, right? And it usually exemplifies the human strength. And that's why you need to build them. And so anyway, after 6 months where he was having $30,000 months or $20,000 revenue months, he was having routine $60,000 months. And then the next year he texted me and he said, "Hey, we had our first $600,000 month." I was like, that's what we need to do. And so I packaged all of that into what we turnkey build for people now. It's all based off of what actually worked for clients because he and I are really close friends. He broke his foot or his hip about 6 months ago. I went and brought him like chili to his house. My wife's a great cook. And those are the types of things that get me really excited. That's why every solution we have has come from one of those consulting situations where they needed something. We built it for them. They had to go implement. And now instead of them implementing, we just do it for them and we can just speed it up faster.
Wow. I love your emphasis on, first of all, it's about processes and systems. I mean, that is the key theme in our McClaskey Excellence course on achieving world-class results because you're so right. And I like what you just said. You put the two things together. The systems help amplify people's talents. And so it's like, okay, systems are what help make you work. You need people to work the systems, but people need systems to be able to work effectively. And it's great that that's a major theme of what you're doing. And then you're saying you're automating this to get it to happen. So love where you're headed on that. And just to note, just to see if I understood, you started by selling books as a summer job out of college. And then if I understand, you then helped hundreds of other people have summer jobs selling books out of college. Was that, did I get that right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
That's fantastic that you went ahead and said, look, this worked for me. I'm going to multiply it, have it work for others. And who knows how many other people have started their businesses now. And their story started with, well, I started with my first job in college selling books. And working for you, Joe, in this case. So fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you. And when you think about your company, an operations issue, can you share an operations issue, or it could be for some of your customers, either one, and how it got resolved and navigated?
Yeah, sure. Let's just go with ours because I don't like to kiss and tell about the clients here. So
yeah,
let's run through ours here. So clients have all these issues, and I think what everyone needs to do in their business. And we did this about 3 months ago because we finally formulated, here's the exact packages. So when we started with Velocity 360, we used to do some custom stuff and trying to figure out our market fit. We found our market fit in the sales recruiting solutions for lead generation, CRM ops. That's our fit. That's where we live. And there's certain people who need that. Most businesses need the sales and some businesses need mass recruiting. And whenever we were doing that, we had to clarify what comes in each one. What are the limits? And we made this optimization guide and we wrote out every step of every process because it was just taking too long and we were having quality issues. It would come out, one analytics would be done dashboard would be designed this way with these features. Another one would be this way with these features. And it's like, then someone would get in there, we'd have to do all these extra support videos and training. And it just became this, Dallas size scroll, scrolling city madness. Right. And so it's like, okay, look, here's what we need to do. What's the end result we want for the client, and work your way backwards. And so we had to write down every step, what we're trying to do, from the exact piece of analytics you're going to see at the dashboard, to the exact type of message, to our cadence and follow-up if you missed a phone call, to our nurture sequence, to our outbound sequence that calls and emails and connects on LinkedIn. We had to have all of that written out. And how much time does it take? Let's time it. And then how much time do we want it to take? And from that, we were able to identify the massive time sucks and build systems on Velocity 360 to automate those, whether it's assigning a task, following up with the client, booking the meeting on the meeting instead of following up to book the meeting and spending all the time there, or even just implementing AI tools. Like on our platform, we have people who need a landing page. Like they've got some old website developer. Maybe they don't even own their website. I don't know. They come with a million reasons, and they just need to drive people somewhere to educate them prior to the first meeting or in order to book the first meeting. So we build these for people. And, that took some time manually. And then with AI, we now have a form for them on Velocity where they fill that out on the onboarding, and it creates the website for them automatically. And we just go in there and make some edits. And it saves like 12 hours.
Oh, wow.
Of work.
That's amazing.
And it's wild the type of things you can do with that, because again, that bottleneck means you can't be building a software solution for someone else. Another solution is like, man, we start, 300, 400, 500 users. Once we hit the 300 user mark, it's like, we're getting 1 million support phone calls, like so many of them, right? Like, hey, how do you do this? Hey, how do you do this? Everyone's onboarding their team, right? One of the cool things about our package is we'll create a video that in our setup was, here's how you use it, but not everybody watches it. They're going to ask us how to do it. They're going to call in, whatever. So we have on Velocity, we have AI agents as a feature. And so you can train a live chat, and you can train a phone system for support and other sales, whatever, but support in this case. And we trained an AI on a knowledge base of how to use our system. And our clients can now call that instead of calling us. And it's just like a person. It's crazy. And they say, how do I add a contact? How do I send a message? And it walks them through, go here, click this, do this. They can live chat on the platform now, and it tells them how to do all of that. And it's cut down our support time by like 90% at least. And only if they have a real issue does our support team get involved.
And it's faster for the client because they can call anytime. I know
for the
I'm working
client.
a lot at night, and I can deal with something at 2 a.m. That's fantastic.
Exactly.
And once again, I love the process you described about how do you get your processes developed. You look for where the time is, then you actually look at how we're doing it. What are the best practices? Let's get it down, and let's keep our resources. So how do you move your resources so they're in the right place at the right time?
Yeah. And this is where the leadership piece comes in, right? So you've got to look at your job descriptions and, help develop an actual schedule for people. I find people are really struggle with, what am I supposed to do today if it's not kind of given? Like, these are sort of your time blocks. So we made those, and we made, a couple positions around, what process it was. And we're deciding client facing versus internal, what type of strengths people need. And so the more client facing is the more people skills with a technical understanding, the liaison, we'd say. And then you have your internal back end, which is much more technical based, less client based. So we've got our client success manager, our CRM design engineer. And then under the client success manager is following up with the client. It's meeting with them. It's doing all of the pieces that need to happen there. And then the back end's all this other position. So when you get your entire process written, you grab each piece of those, you assign it to a role, and then you basically, in our system, we have these stages, or like a Trello board is what most people would like look at in our system. And so you're moving people, and we do pass offs and task pass offs between each stage. So we get your written process into the software. You get all of your, what's supposed to happen between stages, notifications, whatever, email to the client, whatever. You get all that laid out by stages, and you build all the automations to pass everything off from left to right. You get all of the behind the scenes stuff into their schedule, and you make it all fit the exact way that you want to run it. That's how we did it. That's how I'd recommend doing it. You automate tasks, you delegate relationships. That's our kind of MO.
That's
Fantastic.
Now, one thing I'm always interested in is I always look at like the younger Billy. I know David likes to look at younger David, and hopefully you look at younger Joe. And I'm always amazed when I look back 20 years to when I started out, and I always joke how bad I was. And I say that in a joking way. It's like, compared to what I know today, what's that one piece you're like, if I would have known that 5 years ago, I would, my gosh, my world would have been so different. Just like that one piece of, if you'd have known it 5 years ago, you would just be in this stratosphere type place.
Oh man, that's a great question. In the entrepreneurial journey, I think one thing that would have been nice to know is exactly what people needed. So, what are the real problems and how can you fit your solution into those ideal client profiles?
Right.
When we wrote out our ideal client profiles based on what we knew their problems were, and we organized exactly how we were going to set up the operations to fix their problem. We set that into some marketing and some sales resources to help close on that. And like, this is your problem. We already have your solution. You don't need anything customized. You need turnkey. When we made that switch, that was a game changer for us. And I wish I would have known that earlier in my career of just being an entrepreneur. It's like, some people want customization, but if you know their problem, just tell them what the solution is, and they're going to be even happier because they don't know the problem. They know their problem. They don't know their solution. So just offer it solutions. We used to brand ourselves as a consulting company, but now we brand ourselves as a solution. And that was, again, just so helpful in helping our clients understand that we know what they need and we've set everything up specifically for why they're struggling.
Had to just like absolutely open up the doors for your team, is instead of searching for the solution, you have the solution ready to offer.
Exactly.
So the amount of time that your team probably got back is just absolutely amazing. Was there any specific system that you really just said, hey, we're going to put this in place, and your team looked at you like, I have 10 more hours today. I don't know what to do with myself. What was that system that opened up their world?
Yeah. The system was, we have a sales and recruiting solution that breaks into two options, and that's it. We have lead generation option, which on sales and recruiting is about the same. It's different content and different leads that we're going to reach out to. And the CRM, slightly different, but same concepts. You have a prospecting pipeline. You have a sales or recruiting pipeline. You have an onboarding ops pipeline. You have a follow-up or training for recruiting pipeline. It's the same. It's the same stuff, different content. It's the same stuff, different content. And if people just can tell us what their process is, what are your stages, we can plug those in, and generally they're pretty close. Prospecting is almost always the same. The sales pipeline's very similar. Recruiting pipeline's very similar. Where real customization comes in is like, what are your training steps and what are your onboarding steps? Those are where things differentiate a lot between businesses, but we have the framework. Just tell us what it is and we'll just take care of it, right?
So it fits into a certain spot in the process, and then that's where you customize, but you only customize where you to.
Exactly. The client only has a few options, and we keep it simple. It's a choice of two positives as a sales tactic. It's like, keep it simple, stupid. I heard someone basically do some research on shoes. There's some shoe company, and they'd have, ladies come in and choose shoes. And if you give them more than two options, they don't choose anything. And if you give them two options, they choose a lot more. Even if they want to, check out more things, you give them those choice of two positives throughout, and then they close on a deal much faster.
Yeah. And I saw some research that if you go down to one choice, it even multiplies even more.
That's right. It does get easier. It just depends on what they need.
And it's great that it's great to hear that right at the core of it is let's get the process right. Let's get it optimized. And then let's use that standardized process over and over again, because that is one of the main themes that we teach in achieving world-class results, because it's a universal. And it's great to hear how you're applying it to your business and your customers. And you've mentioned a lot of things. Can you tell us about an investment you made that you just wish you hadn't, that it didn't turn out well? And was there any way that you might have recognized that in the front end, or no, this is going to be a learn from experience thing?
Great question. Are you talking about an operations investment, or are you saying like a service we've purchased?
You're probably an operations one if you could, but you could talk about a service one if you'd like to.
Yeah, so there's a couple things that come to mind. So one, when I've bought services that aren't operational services, that seemed like the right thing, but their operations weren't clear, that's always turned out terrible. That's always turned out terrible. I can point to a number of website ad companies that weren't clear on what their process was going to be, clearly did not have a standardized process that they could articulate, but liking maybe the person, or like they were promising they were going to do it, and then it just never turns out. And to me, it's the biggest red flag to me as a buyer, that I will never work with a company that does not have a clear, replicable, standardized process. I just won't do it. It's going to go badly. And so from a sales and marketing side of your business, whoever's listening to this, like you have to articulate to people, here's what happens every time after you pay money. It's huge. You got to have it. The other piece, I think before we came up with our software solution, we were using a DocuSign, a HubSpot. We were using, a Calendly. We were using a JotForm and all these different softwares. What I just want to tell the people is like, those were bad investments, not because those software companies are bad, but it's because they don't communicate well, and you really can't scale your operations a lot of the time. And it's so technical if you did want to connect them. So we built our software. We tried to build it all in one. So you could basically run your sales, you could run your ops, you could run your recruiting, you could do whatever you need to do on the same platform, because the tech stack thickness is not the key to success. It's actually the key to confusion.
Yeah.
And the more text that you have, the harder it is to train everybody as well. And then you have the problem of usage and seats, and you've got to pay for each of these platforms, and it creates this aversion to scale. And that's what I would recommend people avoid. And when we were building our software, that it solved all of that for us. You don't need a Monday and a HubSpot and an Instantly AI and an email, MailChimp and all of these things. You can do everything now on one platform is the way that we do it. And if you can get your tech stack to be more simple, all in one solution, like that scaled us a ton.
I think that is tremendous advice. And the idea that the complexity of it all, and I can tell you, sometimes you forget you have them. So you're paying for services you're not even using anymore.
That's right.
Because you've got, 15 of them, and you forget, okay, well, they, twice a year or something, there's fees coming in. So yeah, trying to reduce the complexity. And that's fantastic advice, I think, for all. How do you get it so it just simply works and we can handle it and they integrate well? So wonderful processes. Now, you've talked a lot about AI and the coming potential. So could you tell our listeners, how did you as a company, and what general advice would you give our listeners related to when do you use AI and when do you use a person? And how do you integrate those two, and how do you get the best combination?
Yeah, no, this is a great question. Here would be the framework I would suggest to people. The framework. Automate tasks, delegate relationships. There is no substitution for the relationship piece of working with businesses and individuals. Obviously, if you're listening to this and you're direct to consumer, you want to, obviously, if you have thousands of people coming to your store, enterprise, whatever, if you're at scale, you maybe can't have that one-on-one personal relationship, but you want it to feel. You want your tone. You want everything to at least come through. Automate tasks, delegate relationships. So where we use AI, we have a ChatGPT built into our platform. You can basically run any automations, when it comes to that. So if you're having leads that get emailed to you from something, if you're having forms come in and you need to just summarize it, maybe you're getting phone calls you need summaries of, all of those types of things are like tasks. They're tasks. You got to copy, paste things, do whatever, automate those. So you can run those through the AI on our platform, and it would grab that entire email, synthesize it, and add it as a contact in your system, for example. And you don't have to copy paste it anymore, for example.
Wow.
When it comes to interacting with a lead or a client or a person, that's a client or soon to be a client, whatever, if you want to send them a personalized email, maybe you have some information about them where you can, their birthday, I don't know. Everyone's got different info. Maybe they're part of your rewards program. I don't know. But you want to have dynamic engagement, and the more personalized you can make it, the better. So for us, if you have their birthday, why the biggest reason they love you, a 5-star review, whatever it is, you can run that through a ChatGPT and say, summarize an email specific for this person. And it runs that contact, that information through, and it emails them a personalized email that says, we really appreciate you. And it literally things they've said about your company, all personalized to exactly what they've said. And so you come off even more personal with that AI rather than just a regular.
Wow. So you're using AI to personalize things and getting it rapid, and then also at minimum cost as well.
Yeah. Because you don't spend, like, your person doesn't have to call. Like, the most important thing with client relationship is like, do these people care about me? Right. And so the thing is when you grow a really good business and there's lots and lots of people want to be a part of it, you can't realistically give that one-on-one service as if you were a small business, and you got to go help more people, right? So using the AI to come off is extremely intentional, because that's your heart. You train the AI on your heart, right? Your tone, how you want to make people feel. And you test it a bunch of times, by the way. Like, we don't just release it. First try. Don't do that, please. You will make a mistake. You'll put your foot in your mouth, okay? But if you can make it exactly how you would have said it, and they get that communication via text or an email and it makes them feel good,
Right.
why wouldn't you use it?
I think that's fantastic. And I'm hoping our listeners, I think that's such a great thing. Automate tasks and delegate relationships. I think that's just a wonderful takeaway. So thank you for sharing that. I want to pause here and let everyone know that everything you're hearing now is taught in our Achieving World-Class Results class. We would love to have you and your team in the class so we can help you reduce errors and increase repeat business. The class will enable you to take your operations from ordinary to extraordinary. Sign up now at McClaskeyExcellence.com/AWCR.
That's a brilliant thing that I hope everybody has written down as they're writing this and they're going to apply it to their own company. Now, Joe, the thing that we love operations, Dave and I are both just deep into everything about operations. And while we love to talk about all the successes that everybody has, we're operators. So we want to know what are the struggles? What are the things that you're working on right now that you want to get fixed? Because I guarantee we've got lots of listeners that have that same thing and they would love to hear your perspective. So what's your biggest operational issue right now?
Yeah. Great question. We've had, we're reorganizing all of our systems to be even better. So we come out with new features. We come out with new best practices. When something works for a client, one of the things in our process, our operations process right now is after 30 days, we'll check in, we'll look through their analytics and figure out what worked, what didn't, and offer them, options for how to improve it, whether it's improve themselves or they want to contract us to help them. And whenever we do those, the biggest bottleneck right now is implementing the new best practices and revamping and improving everything as a cycle. And I just think that it's important for everyone to realize that you never stop doing that, in my opinion. I mean, you want to have a standardized process where it can be standardized. And our particular style of business, AI is so fast moving in the software space. You've got to be moving with it, and you've got to be getting your clients the best solutions available as they come out. And be able to solve the problems there. So hopefully everyone listening to this has a more simple process and you don't have to do that. But what I would say is that monthly, quarterly, yearly, whatever makes sense for your business. I don't know what your business is like, but you need to have a tune-up of your systems and you need to have an overhaul and an improvement. And that needs to be a part of your system, that you improve the system. A lot of systems think they're done. You're not done. That's what leads to a Radio Shack. It leads to, right? You can insert the company Kodak, right? And so just avoid the I've arrived syndrome. You've never arrived. You're always growing. People are changing. The world's changing quickly. You need to be using the new tools. And that's based on our mission of trying to help people. We're always doing that. But that is right now the hardest part. So soon, my solution, which has not been developed yet, soon, I would like to train our AI to here's an improvement in a process, and we can kind of tell it where to make the change, and it goes and makes the change for us. That's what I'd like to build in the next 6 months. And I have my team. Oh, wow. Here's the update on the process. It goes to your Google Doc or something, or it goes wherever you're keeping your process, and it could just update it, and then it stays at the right place. That's what I'd like to build. That's not built yet, but we'll eventually build it, and it'll be one of our solutions, I'm sure, that we offer down the road. It'll be pretty cool.
What you're describing is one of the key underlying things that the Malcolm Baldrige National Quality Award teaches, to evaluate and improve your processes, because as you said, if you're not doing that, sooner or later, you're going to be not competitive. And so I think that's fantastic. And now you're talking about maybe we can get AI to do that. That's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, imagine a world where you notice a problem as the owner of your business, and you see this happen 5-6 times. It's a trend, and you go look at the SOP or the procedure, and you're just like, oh, I'm missing it right here. Now you could update all of that, but what if you could just say, hey, here's the problem that's happening. Update this SOP, and fill out some form or get whatever your database is, and you might even there's probably a way to do it where you just put it in AI, copy paste, but and it just does it. It just updates that, and then it sends an email out to the staff on the update, and everyone knows about the training, and you just click some buttons, does all the follow-up. Like, that's what our system's great at too, is just like part of the thing is that your employees don't know the change happened, which is also a huge issue for people. So a workflow that we build for people is like, you make the change, you make an update, it emails your entire staff, texts your staff, voicemail, call your staff directly from the owner, all automated. Hey, did you get the text? And in the text or the email, we say, reply yes that you've read this. And then it can auto track who's read it. Anyway, we're getting into semantics, but these are the types of things that take so much time from the entrepreneur and it prevents them from scaling, that we that we always try to help them with.
The one thing I really love that you're talking about is that process to change a process, to build a process. And that's one key thing that we teach in our classes. And most people miss that because, hey, they write their processes, they have them, and then they just have them there. And they don't
Right.
ever update the process, and they don't have a system to change the process. And I really love the, hey, if you think you arrived, well, what's the version I heard? If you think you've arrived, you're actually out of business. You just don't know it yet.
Right.
It'll happen soon. So I do love that. Now you're growing, and I know you're trying to grow. It seems from a 300 people using your platform to over 2,000. So, a small 700% increase. And hopefully everybody hears the sarcastic tone I'm saying that in, because that's incredible. How about the support that you're having to put behind that? Because you can't just go to the moon. You got to have a whole support team around that. How is it scaling the support as well as the process as well?
Yeah, that's a great question. Guys, you got to see these AI tools. You got to call it sometime. Like the way that it handles problems is just so incredible. Now, it took us about 3 months to build the knowledge base, and we continually add to it. So in my client success manager schedule every week, she's supposed to be updating that knowledge base with best practices, and she builds new images and job aids, is what we call them internally, which is basically step-by-step solutions for people. And so we're building this database. We have a course that we update, and then as we update the knowledge base, the phone support and the live chat support also updates. This is all accessible right on the platform. And so we're updating it ongoing, always and forever. And so as we grow in the number of users, they will have the best possible version at their fingertips by calling if they're maybe old school and they want to talk it through versus a chat, right? Maybe they're a little new school and they want to chat. They can have either of those. And so we've already actually got it in place because AI is so incredible that it can just digest the new procedure, the new best practice, make the update, and immediately real time answer the new question.
Wow. I mean, that is so fantastic. You hear kind of the shaping of the future. And you talked about growing your business. So that means turning one-time customers into repeat customers. Can you tell us your process of how do you get your one-time customers to repeat customers? Because I know in conversations you said, we want every customer we have to stay with us and be repeat customers. Can you tell us what is your process for making that happen?
Yeah, great question. So I believe there's really 2 or 3 steps in this. Step 1 is having their onboarding experience go well. So the stat that we're solving with the way we design our operations is 88% of software implementations fail. You guys might have had a software implementation that has failed and it's rubbed you the wrong way, and now you don't believe in it.
Sure.
Right? And that's probably everybody listening to this. And so we wanted to flip the script and have 90% plus of software implementations go well. And so we reverse engineered what happens. And so when I first got into implementing a software, I actually did it for my company I work at, the door-to-door company. Southwestern Advantage was the name and is the name. And I was trying to roll out a recruiting software to about 300 recruiters. And there was like a 10% adoption rate. It's like, why would people not want to use this? Well, people don't want to use things if it seems bulky or they don't understand the end goal of why would I learn where the buttons are? It feels like more work. And so what we did is we educate people on the front end. We tell them it's kind of annoying to switch softwares. We prepare them for the actual expectation. Listen, we're real. We're honest with them. You're probably going to be confused the first 30 days. You may not see results for the first 3 months as you're getting used to this. And then in 6 months and in 12 months, when you're an expert at this is when you see those results. And we document the results of our clients. We build case studies. We know that in our shed clients, if they use this for 6 months and they have a certain number of leads and a certain starting closing percentage, in 6 months to 12 months, they'll probably double their closing percentage. They'll probably grow their revenue by 167% with our workflows. It's science. It's not like hope, make believe, good luck. Like that's not, and that's how we build our operations. It's based on data, right? And so that's what we go through. They're the most important people to us as they're going through the process and as they are after. We have weekly check-ins after we've built everything. We sit down with the decision maker to customize and tailor the workflows that we already have designed to their problems, right? We have the meetings, we do all that up front, and we have routine checks. So we actually have the client success manager check the CRM design engineer 4 times prior to the launch of the software, including approval from the client with an exact walkthrough, right? So we have the entire software set and developed before we even let your team know it exists. Why? Because if your team starts on something that's broken, they do not adopt. If it's not working, it's actually taking more time, they don't adopt. And what's that do for the business owner? I can't get the value, right? I can't get the value I want. Yeah, we could make a workflow for someone that auto calls every lead they have, messages them, drops a voicemail. Now, it's not an auto bot. It just like calls, hangs up, leaves a voicemail from David McClaskey, right? And it feels personal, and they call back. And so that person doesn't have to go try to get them on the phone and miss them 5 times, right? But if the people don't know where to click, they don't know how to answer the phone, right? That becomes an issue. So we have this really in-depth training. We check in with them every week for the first 4 weeks. We have a 30-day recap with them. We create this training video. We really educate them on the support. And then we meet with them every quarter just to see how things are going. And generally that leads to stories of success, them telling us updates for their case study. Hey, can you build this thing for me? Actually, my business has grown. I need new processes. And that's what we want to happen for people. We want them to win so much that their system breaks and they need more, right? That's a great problem to have. Your system's breaking. You're growing too fast.
Oh, and I want to capture for our listeners that another, you're hitting so many just wonderful key points because you're capturing the things that are universal that we teach all the time. And that's the idea that you want to get your process designed for 100% and pilot it so they actually work. Because you're so right. If the people that work for you say, oh, this is a new system and it's going to be better, well, I'm looking forward to it. If this is a new system and it's going to be a disaster, and a lot of times it's not going to work, and sometimes we just give up on it. So I'm just going to try to ignore it. And if they don't try to make it work, it doesn't work. So I think that's a beautiful example. And then you've incorporated into your system and designing. And do you have a specific example of how, okay, this really helped us turn a one-time customer into a repeat customers? I don't know if you have a specific story of what you just talked about. Yeah, we did this. They've been with us ever since.
Yeah, let's go with Wisdom Health Insurance. So it's a local health insurance company. They help over 65-year-olds, get onto Medicare and all those things that
we wouldn't know anything about over 65-year-olds, but it's all right.
Well, you guys look like you're in your early 50s. So anyway, so he's a great guy. His name's Ryan, and he just really cares about seniors. And he had 200 touch points he was doing manually, and so we were working at helping him do that. We automated 200 touch points for him, and it allowed him to save 50 hours a week. He grew 20% revenue in the first month off season. So Medicare, medical insurance, they have an open enrollment in October, November periods of time.
Yeah.
And so we built all of that in the off season. So in his off season, he was up 20%. His closing rate went to 40%. And so it actually led him to be able to hire 4 people in the off season because, hey, this system we'll do all of this for you. And they were like, really? Like, yeah. And it just plugs in because the way we design our workflows is that if you add a new user, it changes all the stuff out for the user if they sent the automation. And so he's able to hire. And then he's like, hey, can you integrate with this thing? It's working so well. Can you integrate with this next thing? And then he wants to do our recruiting solutions next because he wants to hire and scale more people because his systems are already scalable for his salespeople. And other competitors do not have as good of a sales system as he does. And so therefore he's just really competitive in the recruiting market.
Fantastic.
Love those stories. Anytime we can hear about a client story, that's incredible. Now we're going into my favorite time of year, and it's not because it's October, not because it's Halloween or anything like that. I always call Q4 my favorite time of year because it's strategic planning time. And I love strategic planning. I mean, it's one of my favorite things that David and I get to do when we work with our clients of McClaskey Excellence Consulting. So what's one goal you have for your strategic plan that's coming up? What's exciting you right now?
Yeah, great question. One of the most important things, our strategic plan for 2026 is really what do we need in order to scale our outreach, max leads, and really more importantly, how many salespeople do we need per number of leads? Like that's what we're trying to calculate over the next 3-4 months. And once we have that, the system's pretty turnkey. We actually know and have how many hours for how many clients can a client success manager handle and for our CRM design engineer, but we don't have it for our salespeople just yet, just because we've been spending so much time on the operations and the client fulfillment because a quality delivery is the most valuable thing when you're starting up. Because if you can do that repeatably, then if you scale your sales teams, you're not going to get a bunch of bad PR, right? And so that's our most important goal for the next 3 to 6 months is like, how many leads do we need per salesperson for them to have a good income and a good experience? And how long does it take them to be a high performer? So that's our next system to build. And we're on our way. So we do have a lot of resources still to go.
Well, Joe, you have shared so much great information. I love the way you've encapsulated the insights. And thank you so much for joining us in this podcast. And you could see we could talk for hours. And this is fantastic. thank you for sharing the great wisdom and learnings that you've had.
Yeah,
All
thank
right.
you guys so much for having me. I really, really appreciate it.
Awesome. Hey, and just remember to all of our listeners, this new episode is going to drop the first and third Monday of every month. So, hey, subscribe, join us for more, and we look forward to having great leaders join us in the future. Operations Experts was created by McClaskey Excellence Institute. Hosts were David McClaskey, president of McClaskey Excellence Institute, and Billy Schaefer, vice president of McClaskey Excellence Institute. The podcast was produced and edited by Kate Craig of Kate Craig Consulting. New episodes drop the first and third Monday of every month on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Audible, Amazon Music. Find us online at McClaskeyExcellence.com and register for our Achieving World-Class Results course to enable your organization to deliver exactly what you promised every time using extraordinary operations.